Previously, I showed you how to make a cardboard robot that I called Boardbot. That robot used direct drive motors, but some of you are going to want to use geared motors. Now I'd like to show you a variation on Boardbot designed for gearbox motors. Let's get started. For this project, you're going to want to gather some duct tape, some hot glue, and some scrap cardboard. In addition, you're going to want to get whatever microcontroller board you prefer. I prefer the DP32 because it's a cheap, powerful little board, and it has breadboard built in. You're also going to want to get a bottle cap, a battery pack. I use 4 AA's or AAA's because those work best with boards like the DP32 or the Arduino. You also need your motors and wheels. These are some gearbox motors using the bottle cap wheels that I show you how to create in my Motors and Wheels for Cheap Robots Instructables. Before we begin, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about corrugated cardboard. Corrugated cardboard has a grain just like wood does. That grain is created by the corrugated layer inside of the 2 surface layers. As you can see here, I have rubbed my cardboard with chalk so that you can see the indentation of the corrugation layer on the surface. You won't need to do this, so I haven't included chalk in the parts list. But it's just to show you what direction my corrugated cardboard grain is going. I have my grain pointing up and away from me. You're going to want to make sure yours does too. I'm going to place my parts in approximately the position that I want to have them on my robot. And I'm also going to want to make sure I have space for my motors on either side. Once I have these parts placed approximately where I want them to be, I'm going to make a mark with my pencil or pen showing where my battery ends, where the back of my robot is, and generally where my motors say that the side of my robot needs to be. Now that I have those marks, I'm going to extend them using my ruler . Then I'm going to extend this backside out just a little bit. Now, I'm making it 3 inches long because that will make it easier to divide by 3 later on. You'll see why. But if you're using metric, you could use something like 6 centimeters. Now that I have those marks, I can cut out my piece of cardboard. When cutting your cardboard, make sure you don't bend it too much. Otherwise, you could fold and crease it, which will make it less stiff later on. And now we have our piece of cardboard. Next, we need to mark and scour our piece of cardboard. So, this is the back end of my robot, the 3-inch extension that I made earlier. I'm going to make a mark on there to divide it into thirds. I'm going to do this on both sides. And then I'm going to connect those marks with a line. Now that I've got my marks on, I need to scour them. Before I do that, though, I'm going to place a piece of scrap cardboard underneath mine to make sure I don't damage this nice table. You need to be very careful when scouring your cardboard because you are dealing with sharp scissors. And you also want to make sure that you don't cut all the way through your cardboard, so that once you scour, your cardboard can still bend like a hinge. So I'm going to do that for my other line as well. It's all right if you don't make them perfectly straight. I'm going to bend, and I'm going to bend that one as well. Now, once you've got your cardboard scoured and folded, when you bend it over to touch the other side, you should create approximately an equilateral triangle. Now that we've got our cardboard scoured and folded, we need to transfer this back line that we made previously over onto the top side of our cardboard. To do this, just make a mark approximately where the ends of your line are on the top side of your cardboard. and then connect that with another line. You don't need to make it exactly on. That way, it's much easier to see where we need to place the end of our reinforcement. All right. Now, hold your reinforcement down and glue it. And now we've got our platform completed. So with our platform completed, we need to flip it over to add our back wheel. Place your bottle cap approximately in the center of the back side of your robot and glue it down with 3 or 4 small beads of glue. You don't need to use much glue. Now, flip your board back over and check to see that your components still fit on it the way that you want them to. I like to add a little bit of duct tape to the back of my components to protect them from the glue and make it easier to remove them if I want to use them on another project. You don't need to completely wrap them up in duct tape because you're only going to be gluing small portions of them. And personally, I prefer to make sure that my duct tape is hidden by using a piece that's just slightly smaller than my component. Add some glue to your components, like so. You don't need to use too much glue here, and the less glue that you use, the easier it's going to be to pull your components off if you need to work on your robot for whatever reason, or if you just want to salvage parts for a new robot, which I do quite frequently. Place them on your robot and hold them while the glue dries. Now it's time to add our robot wheels. Just like before, we're going to wrap our motors in a bit of duct tape to make them easier to remove. Once you've got your motors wrapped, check to make sure that there's still space on either side for you to mount them. Add a little bit of glue and press and hold until the glue sets. Do this with both motors. Try to make sure your wheels are pointing straight forward. And now we've completed our variation on the Boardbot for gearbox motors.